this is Dave from e-PortFix, and today I want to talk to you about adjusting mechanical disc brakes. So there's a couple little tricks here to adjusting mechanical disc brakes because you want your caliper centered and your rotor running right in between the pads without rubbing. So when you're rolling down the road or trail, there's no extra resistance, no extra noises to bother you. It's not that hard. Let me show you how I do it. So here we've got the disc brake caliper. This one's bolted directly to the fork. Now these two bolts where it bolts on, upper and lower bolts there, those are the ones that we're going to be using to center the caliper on the disc so that it doesn't rub. This is a pretty simple arrangement. This is a single caliper that bolts directly onto the fork. Sometimes you'll have your caliper, it'll mount to an adapter, which one then mounts to the fork or to the frame. This is a post mount. Sometimes you'll see a IS standard where the bolts are going in sideways onto an adapter and then the caliper is mounted that way. This is a pretty simple arrangement though. This is nice and easy to work with and easy to show you how it's done. So you're going to back off those bolts, the upper and the lower. Just loosen them enough so that the caliper is floating around. You can see once that's loose, then there's some play on the caliper. If I show you from behind here, you'll see those holes in the caliper are slotted, and so that allows the caliper to float around, and that's where you get your adjustment. So to start with, loosen it up like that, and you'll just want to squeeze the brake. When you do that, you can see the caliper is going to align itself on the rotor. So you just want to squeeze the brakes there and then tighten these up. Don't tighten them very much. If you really try to force them down here, you might move the caliper and you lose your alignment. So just very lightly hand tight till it's grabbing. Release the brake. Then we'll see what we got here. It's pretty close. You can still see it's rubbing a bit. So then we'll get to our next step. So we're going handheld on you here. This is a view from the top of your rotor running in between the caliper. Now I guess I should mention this before the start of it all. You want your rotor to be pretty straight. This one's got a bit of a wobble to it. That's definitely going to affect it. That's going to make it much harder to center if you've got some run out on your rotor. It's still got enough to play with here that I can get it to, it's not rubbing. But you'll see on a mechanical disc brake, it's the one side that pushes in as you pull the lever, it pushes in the pad from the one side, deflects the disc over, and it touches the pad on the other side. Now there are some disc brakes that have dual actuation, and mechanical disc brakes, they got a lever on each side and it'll pull it into the center. This one, like a lot of them, they just work by deflecting the disc a little bit, and they work pretty good. Now on the inside of the caliper, right over here, usually there's an adjustment where you can turn this screw. There's an Allen key in here. You turn that in or out, and that brings the pad closer or further away from the rotor. So that's another way to adjust it. But here we're just trying to center the caliper and trying to get it as close as we can. So once we've got our caliper adjustment pretty close, you're going to have a little bit of rubbing. Your bolts aren't completely tight, so back off just one of them. I just use the top and then the bottom bolt alternately, and I kind of walk the caliper one and the other to give it the final adjustment. So spin it a bit and be really careful. Don't get your finger caught inside the rotor. It's going to slice your finger off pretty handily. So just always respect around the rotors here. So with the one bolt off, you can move it in and out just a little bit. Feel it with your fingers, tighten it up. If it's still rubbing and you can look straight down from the top, you can back off the bottom one. The bottom one's a lot closer to the rotor, so you want to be really careful there. And you can move that in or out. It's rubbing there. Pull it out a little bit. We'll cinch that up. Never cinch them up too tight, because if you turn it, you can actually start to move the caliper if you really give it a good pull. So, and then tighten up that one until it's quiet. And then you can check your braking action, do the adjustments after, but that's all there is to it. It's just squeeze the brake, tighten those up, and then loosen up just one bolt in the other, walk it back and forth a little bit, looking down, make sure it's centered. And then once that's done, you can snug them up a little bit at a time, one and the other, one and then the other, until you get your desired tightness. Give it one last spin, listen for the quiet, and then you can go on. You can adjust your cable length, your lever throw, either by an adjuster that's usually here, or one up on the lever. And here's a Shimano, kind of a dirty Shimano caliper. This is on my winter bike, and as you can see, this uses the mounting from the side, the IS standard, and then the bolts come in from the side. It goes onto this black part here, which is the adapter, and then your caliper is mounted here with, again, those same bolts, one on top, one on the bottom. And so you just back those off. It'll allow your caliper to move around, squeeze the brakes, and then just tighten them up a little bit, loosen them off, and you can check down in that gap there between the rotor and the pads. Make sure that's even, spin it, get a sense of whether you need to walk the top over or the bottom over, and then cinch it up bit by bit. Here's your adjustment to adjust the lever throw. Screw that back up as your pads wear and you need more, a little bit tighter braking. And on the inside over there, you can see there's the adjustment for the inside pad. That's what's going to bring your inner pad in or out to open or close that gap to allow you to adjust it properly. So there you have it. Pretty simple, pretty easy to do. No excuse for you to have your brakes rubbing now. I'll cover the straightening the rotor and hydraulic brakes in another video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. I'll read and respond to all the comments, and thanks for watching. Take care. See you next time.